Okay, so I want to do a small recording on some of the items that we can model and do some line work on this cloud data. This is not a complete set of scans, but we do have 3 scans here of the Bowery site. So first thing I like to do whenever I'm dealing with something like this is to just kind of make it easier to see everything. There's a few ways to do this, but one way I like to do it is just a simple slice command. So I do a slice, and I can do it a couple of different ways. What I like to do is actually use virtue serve and just pick a point that is right on the ground, and then pick a point just above the ground. All it cares about are the 2 elevations between it. So then if I switch back, you can see I have my slice here. And then what I always do, since I start on the ground, I just shift it up one time. And you can see the ground goes away. It stops sort of interfering with the view. And then I have a thin slice for everything. Now the reason I do this thin slice to start off with is because now we can do like a 3-point circle command. And this is a Kubit 3-point circle. You can adjust it between 2D and 3D modes. But you can see as I do that, I can get these tanks very easily just by snapping to any of the exterior points. I traditionally try to spread them out a little bit just to make them more accurate, because the longer area that you give it, the more along that radius that it has to work with. Okay, so we have these done, and if you wanted them to be 3D, then let me just change this to a wireframe here. If you want this to be 3D, then all you have to do is do AutoCAD's extrude command. You can see it's taking these circles. In this case, it's waiting for an extrusion point. I'm not exactly sure how far these go. Let's just say they go up to here, to the wall, or to the ceiling. So I pick a point there. You can see I've got those extruded. Now I'm sure they go further, but that's the extent of what the scan data is going to let me see. Okay, so some of the other stuff, doing some piping. And here what I'll do is bring back all the points, do another slice, and this time instead of doing a thin set of slices, what I'll do is actually give it a thicker slice, but it's going to be above the floor, below the ceiling, and that's just to eliminate data above and below it that could get in the way. Okay, so what I would do here, even if we were just doing a simple set, you can always snap to points right out of the cloud. And it's going to give you the diameter, let you choose the diameter if it's within a certain range, but this is always an option. And anytime it changes directions, you click 2 more points, let it do what it's doing right here. Oops, that was the wrong option. And what I had shown earlier in the demonstration was having the T right here. This is incorrect the way that it draws in here, and I'll show you. Normally I just put the lateral into the catalog, but what I can do with this is actually let the software auto correct it for me. I'll show you what I mean by this. So if I were to continue this run here, we'll say I'll continue off this T, and the T is the wrong choice, but still the software is going to let you fix that. So all I have to do is tell the software that these objects are connected, and once I do what's called apply constraints, it's going to take this line, sees it as being all one line, and then it's going to fix it. And if I put it back in a shade mode, you can see. Now, again, the way I would do this, just put the lateral in the catalog. Now, if I want to continue this run, for example, just walk the run, continue. I choose whichever end I want to continue from, or whichever piece. And actually, what I do is I use virtue serve to select the points. And here's that from a different angle. And what I want to do is bring it over this way. So 2 points and we're going to get the 45-degree elbow. You see it brings the first pipe up to it, comes to the second one, and then I want to go ahead and put in my flange here. Now I have a couple of ways to insert this. I actually toggle it to insert it by face, and then I just click a point right on the face of that flange. Alright. Now if I need solids, I can do that. If I need plant 3D objects, I can do that as well. And to do that, it's real simple. You just do export, choose whichever ones you want. I'll just say plant 3D solids. It's going to create these for me. And you can see I now have an overlay of these objects. And if I highlight them, I can click the plus symbol to continue piping. I could go over here and create an isometric. There's lots of things. And all of that stuff at this point would be, plant 3D functionality. Okay. So what I want to do here now is some structural steel. And we have a couple of different ways to do this. And you can do it with structural steel or concrete, whatever you feel. We have a bunch of different options here, from wide flanges to angles to channels to hollow steel shapes, that kind of thing. What I do here is a method called postpone fitting. Now you can do them one at a time. The way the postpone fitting works is that if I were to go here, all I need to do is click 2 points on each column. So let's say here and here. If I pick 2 on this one, I can do that. And then I can even switch to a different scan and get some other pieces in here like these two. These are in a different area. So it's nice to be able to get these as well. And if I go back to AutoCAD, you're going to see a bunch of these kind of boxes here, but they're not really fit. Now what this is doing is kind of storing it for later. So now I'm done. It says, do you want to fit these 5 beams? I say yes. And I watch, it's going to go to each one and just kind of shift it into place. It's going to extend it as far as it can see it. It's going to match it up to the data. It's going to give it the right orientation, etc. And then all I have to do is turn on my shade mode. And you can see these pieces in here. Now there's a couple of other tricks I like to use with VirtuServe especially. Very straightforward tubing trick is good, or any kind of handrail, something like this. We'll go over to the other scan. I believe there is some steps in there. Here we go. And the first thing I want to do is set my size for the handrail. You could do this any number of ways, just by manually setting it. I do a set size macro here that is just going to feed that diameter for me. You only have to do that once. So then what I do is I'm just going to trace around this. Doesn't have to be, dead on line, doesn't have to be in the middle, because it's going to have sort of a smoothing feature at the end of it. I'll just bring this around. I believe it continues on the other end. Yes, that should be the same one. And generally around curves, I try to give it a few more points, just to make sure that it reads that curve as best as possible here. And on the straightest segments, you don't have to be so picky. Anyway, that should be fine. Transform macro. And going back into AutoCAD, you can see that handrail right there. So you just kind of repeat that for some of the other ones. It's a nice way to do it, especially for something that is not a consistent shape. Handrails change from spot to spot. As far as the steps, what I would probably do, let me make sure this is the best scan for it. I believe it is. There we go. That's a good one. What I start with is a 3D box macro that we've created over here, and it's really a pretty straightforward thing. You just start by clicking 2 points along any sort of axis or seam, and then we want to actually provide it sort of those box points. So there's a upper left corner, then I'm going to go to the bottom right corner, and then I'm going to give it the depth of the step. So if you can see in AutoCAD, this is what I was given, or what I created. And then I'll go ahead and split screen this for us, just so we can see. Then we do sort of a way to create an array of objects. Really, you just want to give it a start point and an end point. I usually pick the seam here. Then I want to give it the distance between items along the path. Generally, I'll pick in the center of 2 different steps and just let it adjust it for you. Pretty easy though to create steps like that. Now this is just a small amount of what we can do here. What I would probably also do is, let me just export the steel real quick. Or not export it, but convert them to solids. And I'll do the same thing with the piping. Now the reason I like to do that is because you can use a number of commands here. Flat shot is a good one because it's going to let me create 2D geometry of everything, giving it the true angle, the true insertion, or the true angle. What I do here is I just simply move it, and I find a displacement point that I can match over here, like this. And then if I go back to wireframe, let me just turn off all the 3D stuff. There we go. There's my 2D line work. If we overlay it on the cloud, you can see everything.